Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Speak, Film, and Enter, a podcast where we review and rank movies. I'm Nate.
And I'm Dylan.
And I'm Adam.
Today, we've got the December Roundup for you. We did not do the November Roundup due to reviewing a lot of movies, the 12 Days of Christmas stuff, and just some scheduling conflicts. So this is just for December, but if anybody wants to throw in anything that they watched in November that we didn't get to talk about either, feel free to do that too. If this is your first time joining us for one of our monthly roundups, we watch a lot of movies here, and we review the newer ones that we watch, but there are a lot of older movies that we watch that we don't ever review, and this is kind of the space that we use to talk about those. We break them into 4 different categories to give this some type of structure. Dylan, do you really quickly want to tell the people what the categories are?
Yeah, so we got 4 categories for you: best new watch, best rewatch, dud of the month, and movie you just want to talk about. So just anything that you, for any reason, good, bad, non sequiturs,
something weird that you watch that you just kind of need to get off your chest.
Yep.
Anything like that. So with that, I think we can dive right in and get to the best new watches of December and maybe November if you feel the need to include one of those as well, since we skipped last month. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Perfect.
I'll start this one off. So best new watch, I've got 2 of them, and I think, Nate, you're going to like both of them. So the first one is from 1985, Brazil.
Yes.
Which we watched together. This is directed by Terry Gilliam, written, directed, stars Jonathan Pryce, Kim Greist, Bob Hoskins, Ian Holm from Lord of the Rings, and Robert De Niro. And I think that's a good place to start, is with the Robert De Niro role, because that's why this skyrocketed to my best new watch of the month. My day job, I work in commercial HVAC, so heating, ventilation, and cooling, and I rarely, if ever, see anyone in movies who has the job that I have. It is extremely rare. And in 1985's Brazil, we have by far the greatest HVAC technician in film, played by Robert De Niro, and his name is Harry Tuttle, and he is awesome.
Yeah, I don't even think that's disputable. I think he is amazing. This is also on my best new watch list, so I think we can both just talk about it right now instead of kind of splitting it up half and half. I should also say we are going to have a more in-depth review of this movie coming soon-ish, so we won't we shouldn't get too far into this now. But I just think mentioning Harry Tuttle and how amazing De Niro is kind of a good tease and a good pitch for watching this movie. My quick little letterboxed review of this was that Harry Tuttle is the greatest character in the history of cinema. And I don't feel like that's that strong of an exaggeration. It was incredible.
Yeah, if you're talking like bang for your buck, like amount of screen time and effect that he had on the whole movie was just, he only really has like 3, he shows up 3 times basically. And we won't get too far into it. Basically, Brazil, it's kind of a 1984-esque, dystopian future. Man who's working as part of the system realizes, it's wrong and starts to work against it. A lot of the classic things you'd expect. But Harry Tuttle is a vigilante HVAC tech because he fixes people's heating without the approval of the government, who has a monopoly on all services. And so he shows up in the middle of the night in like special ops gear. He carries a gun and he zip lines around the city. So I mean, he's just the best, basically. Yeah, he's the best.
He's amazing.
Like Batman HVAC.
He is.
Pretty much. We had a moment too where we were watching this together, and he came in and he's wearing like a mask that covers everything from like, I think, below the mouth.
Yeah.
And like a hat, and you can't really see his face, and he's all in black. And Dylan said, wait. And I said, wait, who is that? I like the mask. I couldn't really tell. And he's like, I don't want to say anything in case I'm right. It might spoil it.
Yeah.
And then finally he like takes his mask off, and we both just like were shocked. And then I will say the third time he showed up, we both just started clapping.
Yeah, we both. Yeah, there was just cheering, audible cheers. Just fantastic. And yeah, it's funny too because I'll move on to my next one. But the Robert De Niro, he has very distinct eyes. right? He has the Robert De Niro eyes. He uses them very effectively. And when we first meet him, he's got like magnifying goggles on. So that from our point of view, it's like his eyes are all like bulged and zoomed in, and it was just like it was surprisingly funny. I usually don't, that type of stuff usually doesn't get me, but I could not stop chuckling just because it's Robert De Niro.
So yeah, Brazil, basically 1984 with the kind of Terry Gilliam like zany comedy spin on it, while also still like tackling serious issues. But
yeah, very well written. We both loved it again. Yeah, both. It was a great call. Wish I would have seen it sooner, but glad that we got to watch it together. And then my second best new watch is drum roll. Paddington motherfucking 2. Woo!
Yes.
Step up in the building. Yeah, no. So I did finally watch Paddington 2. I watched it last night, and I really, really liked it. I think that it is very, very good. At this moment, I have it as a really solid 4 stars, and I think that's only because a crazy amount of hype going into it for this movie, right? Most people, or at least, like you, Nate, like got to see this before all the buzz and the hype, so it was like, oh my god, this movie was shockingly good, and it becomes kind of like your own personal thing. Whereas for me, it's like I'm going in thinking it's like the perfect movie, so that's kind of working against it. But I mean, it was just delightful. Really, I mean, funny moments, really great like storylines. The plot was great. I like how there was some kind of zany, kooky stuff that happened, but mostly it was kind of a simple story just about like family and wanting to like give something to a family member on the holidays and like why that is important. And I just had a really great time, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention Hugh Grant as Phoenix Buchanan. Just an incredible villain. So every time he was on screen, he was cracking me up. He was great. Everybody,
maybe his best role.
Yeah, honestly, the stuff where he's going back and forth with his old characters and like Macbeth, and he's like, steal your nerve, Macbeth. Like he's like yelling and like doing the different voices, but it's just him because he's like crazy. Really liked it. So solid 4. It's only going to go up. I'm sure that if I watch it again, it'll go up a half a star.
I will say, just really quickly, the first time I watched it, I gave it a 4.5, and then the second time I watched it was when I bumped it up to a 5.
Okay, yeah, I feel like
we're not far off on our first watches, outside of maybe just the hype factor.
Yeah. So I had a lot. So just a 4 for now, but I still really enjoyed it, and I totally get it. And it was very good. So I like Paddington 2. I'm a Paddington 2 fan, and I never saw the first one, so I went in completely blind and still really, really liked it.
Perfect segue. So I think Adam should go next.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad that you know what we're going for. I watched the original Paddington, haven't seen 2 yet, and absolutely loved it.
Wow, then you're really gonna love 2.
That's my best new watch, or one of my best new watches. Nicole Kidman plays the villain in the first one, and she's a taxidermist, and she wants to stuff him, and like that's the whole goal of the movie, and it's hilarious. My favorite part about it is like no one ever, like, it doesn't come up that like he's a talking bear. Like when he gets to Britain, he's just like standing on his suitcase, like trying to like, maybe if I'm just nice and say like hello to somebody, they'll like take me in and I can find a home. And so the family that you meet, or you have in 2, is walking by, and the dad is like, oh, that's don't talk to him. It's just a bear over there. Like let's keep going. And like that's the only like, oh, it's a bear. Yeah, he talks. Keep moving. Like he's just a vagrant. Like it's just accepted.
I like that too. Yeah, in Paddington 2, I like that too. People are just like, oh, the bear. You're up. Like it's totally normal. Like,
it's a wonderful story. It's about trying to find your place in the world, and what is family, what constitutes family, why that's important, all of that kind of thing, and how you grow and love those people. They're just so wholesome. It's impossible to not like this movie, or at least appreciate that like this is a very well done series that is accessible to absolutely everybody, and there's no real downside. Like the zaniness that you get in the first one is all like measured and not like over the top. Like there's some wild stuff at the beginning with like a bathroom, but like, okay, like you knew what you were getting into. There's a talking bear on screen, like we're fine. Yeah. So like they're wonderful, and there's no reason somebody can't watch this and enjoy it, no matter who you are. So that is my number one best new watch. And after I watched
5 stars, right?
I gave it 5 stars. Yeah, I put that on Letterboxd, and like the next day, Nate texted me and was like, "You watch Paddington?"
That's what Letterboxd is for.
Yeah, he was talking, and it was great. My other two are, I guess, I'm not as excited about, but they are, two of my favorite new watches. But they were from November, and one of them, which we have, I believe, a review for, is Tar. Which I just really ended up liking and like can't wait to see again. I've recommended it to my mom and a couple other people. I just want to see Cate Blanchett just do her thing again. It's so good. And then the other one that I was very shocked that I liked as much as I did, because it just hasn't left my brain, is Decision to Leave. It's such a not to leave your brain. It's such a unique movie. It's like a romance mystery murder, like good joke. And it's just it's so well done. I don't know like what else to say about it besides like I need to see it again. Like I can't wait to watch it again. It's so unique.
Adam and I did review both of those movies. We'll link those here. And I totally agree. I really want to rewatch both of these, and I plan on doing that before we get to our top 10 of the year episode. Yeah. But yeah, they're both really, really good. Dylan, you got to check them out if you ever get some time. Highly recommended, I think. So, Adam, was that it for you then?
That's it for me. I gave both of those a 4.5. I have some other 4.5s on there, but I believe we've already kind of spoke about them, so I'll let those be. You can go find our Letterboxd and see where we're at.
Yeah. So I had 3 best new watches. One of them was Brazil, which we just talked about. Another was Jeanne Dielman, which Dylan and I have an episode for that I will link right here as well. We have a full in-depth review of that. We reviewed that after it showed up as the #1 movie of all time in the 2022 Sight and Sound poll.
Yep.
So all I'll say on here is that given the premise of the movie, I definitely rolled my eyes when I saw it was #1 on that list about a woman doing chores for 3 hours and 15 minutes. And not to get too much into the episode and the review that we had, but I was shocked at how much I actually liked this movie. Same. So, and I think Dylan ended up kind of agreeing with that. And really shockingly good. And we dive into all the reasons why in the episode that we just linked. And then the other one that I wanted to talk about, I watched right at the end of November, and that is a movie called Kes.
Oh, spell it.
Kes.
Kes. Okay.
Yeah. Which is by Ken Loach. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce his name.
Loche. I don't know.
There's no E at the end, Dylan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Loach. It looks like Loach. Loach like Roach.
Yeah.
Loach like Roach.
From 1969, so it's a British movie, and this is just about a young English kid from a working class family in a small town in northern England who, I guess captures is really the right word, and trains a kestrel. And that's kind of his one like way to sort of cling to some type of freedom, ironically, by capturing something else, which is kind of the point of the movie. It's very much about like working class conditions and growing up in like that kind of factory life. Kind of reminded me of like Bicycle Thieves and the 400 Blows and like a lot of themes that are big in like 70s Springsteen music. Kind of stuff like that working class kind of life. And it's just beautifully done. And I mean, it's hard to get in. There's not even that much of a plot where he just, his brother works, he's in school, and it's a poor town. He shares a bed with his brother. His mom is kind of trying to remarry, and just everybody around him is kind of miserable. And he's kind of miserable until he finds this kestrel and trains it. And it's like the only sense of joy that he really feels. And then dealing with stuff at school where, his PE teacher is just a fascist, basically, like running these classes just like some kind of Disney villain almost. it's just a really, really smart movie about class. And I thought it was fantastic. And it's one that I would definitely recommend for a lot of people to check out. So I gave all three of those 4.5s. That was Brazil, Gene Dealman, and Kess.
All right.
Nice. All right,
so we can move on to Dylan for best rewatch.
Yeah, so I have two of them. It should be pretty quick. The first one, at least. I did rewatch Die Hard on Christmas Day.
Nice.
About 5:30, 6 o'clock, post football game, post watching Elf, and then it was like, well, what's next? And Die Hard was the answer. And it was just a really good time, watching that with a group, with family. It's just a fun, action-packed 80s just extravaganza. It's just got great energy. And the reason, what I just wanted to say is this time was the first time I was actively looking for the Christmassy elements, and it is more Christmassy than I remembered.
Okay.
It is more than just it happens to be a Christmas party that he goes to. Like they're throwing in like sleigh bells in the soundtrack. Like there are things that are very Christmassy in this, like here and there. And I think that, I don't know, I'm almost more on the side of maybe it is a Christmas movie than I was before. But yeah, I just noticed it a lot more. I was like, oh, okay, they're actually leaning into it a fair amount. But yeah, still had a great time. Really fun. And then the second best rewatch was another movie I haven't seen in a long time, and that is Spider-Man 2.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Sam Raimi.
From 2004, Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, Alfred Molina. And honestly, I realized when I was watching it, like, oh my God, I must have seen this at least like 3 or 4 times in theaters, because it was just like every scene was just like, oh my gosh, yes, I remember this. Oh, I remember. And just like the way they're shot, and like certain scenes, or just like the scene when he tells Aunt May like what really happened when Uncle Ben died is just very, and then she doesn't even like she just like walks away. Like it's painful. And that's why this thing works. The character work is really good. Like the struggle that he's going through, the will they or won't they love romance with Kirsten Dunst, the kind of the stuff that James Franco is going through, and the shocking discovery that it's actually his friend who killed his dad, like, and then just the very, very ending where you don't think it's going to be happy, and then it ends up being like happy, like over the top happy, like she's running through New York in a wedding dress, and there's butterflies and sunshine, and it's just like, oh my God, like it's just so great. It's just he really went for it, and it's just a great, well constructed movie, and it's really interesting seeing it, after the Marvel kind of takeover and like the cookie cutter like way that they were just the formula they had for just cranking out all these movies. We've already gone from them perfecting it to them like owning it to now it's getting played out and they're kind of losing their grip, and it's like, oh God, like superhero movies are kind of falling off hard now. And this was before all that. And I just love how like free and removed from all of that it is. It feels like its own thing. It feels like pure in a way.
Yeah. I totally agree. It's one of my favorite superhero movies ever. I think it's the best live action Spider-Man movie. And it is really fun to revisit those superhero movies from like the late 90s through like the first Avengers movie, really. Yeah. I think is when Marvel kind of exploded. Because before that, it was like Iron Man was really cool, and the rest of them were sort of like meh.
Okay. Yeah.
And it wasn't really a thing yet.
Yeah.
That they had proven they could pull off. So yeah, I like this pick a lot. This movie is really, really good.
Yeah. That's a good one. The first 2 Spider-Mans are great. I think the second one is better, but
yeah. I mean, yeah, I still haven't seen the first one in a long time either, but just I think there's just more going on from what I remember. Doc Ock and the MJ
and
stuff.
That train scene.
The train, yes. The set pieces are great. Yeah. The train scene is fantastic. Holds up so well for being like 18 years old. All right, over to you, Adam, for your best rewatch.
Yeah, I have 3, and I'll say the 2 that I think we've talked about probably before. I think I've talked about before because I tend to rewatch these quite a bit. I rewatched Dune for probably like the 5th time.
Nice.
And loved it. I'm a lot more into it. Like this go around, a lot of things just like clicked more, like themes or like why certain stuff happens and what it actually means. Like the trap that is set for the Atreides and like his dad knowing it, but still having to go through with it, and all of that, everything, all of those things coming together and understanding like that's like cyclical for what Paul's going to have to go through, and basically the same stuff, especially when he does the test with the Bene Gesserit. I also just started reading the book, so like now I'm like full on in it.
Oh, hell yeah.
So like it's really top of mind. I was like, we're watching this. I watched it while I was kind of sick at the beginning of the month, beginning of December, and then like early last week, my girlfriend was like, "Hey, do you want to watch Dune?" I was like, "Yep, we're watching Dune." So I saw it twice. Say no more. This month. You say no more. I'm in. And then I rewatched the same time I was sick. I rewatched Constantine with Keanu Reeves, and that's just a fantastic look into. Like,
Constantine's great.
Angels and demons and hell, and what, Rachel Weisz is in it, and she's fantastic. God, I can't even remember some of the other characters, but the androgynous, oh my goodness, and I'm gonna forget her name. Who plays Archangel Michael? Do you remember, Dylan?
Oh, Tilda.
Yeah, Tilda. Sorry. The androgynous Tilda Swinton as Archangel Michael is fantastic. I mean, if you haven't seen it, I won't spoil who Satan ends up being, because that's also wonderful.
Yeah,
there's just so many good bits in this movie. You really got to dive into the I wouldn't call it the history, but just the I don't know, the religiosity of every character that's in this movie. Him being a kind of not down on his luck, but removed from the church forcefully, sort of, but still having to do this duty because he has this special power to see demons, and it just kind of has to go through it.
Kind of a vigilante, and definitely caught between, like, it's his job, but also he too has a soul, and he's caught between God and the devil, and they're messing with him. A lot of different
quarrels and stuff.
Pulling them in different directions.
His own moral thoughts and that sort of thing, and what he thinks
rips
about
heaters 24/7, even though we find out early that he has like lung cancer. That's like one of the first scenes. The doctor's like, "You got to quit smoking," and he just rips heaters.
Just like, I don't think so. I don't think it's gonna work that way. And then when he's talking to Archangel Michael the first time, you find out like he's going to hell. When he dies, he's going to hell. Everybody knows it, including all the demons he's helped putting back in hell. And like that whole dynamic, it's just such a fun fucking movie to watch.
It's great.
So I watched those two, and then I rewatched The Batman from this year with Robert Pattinson. I was
thinking recently I want to rewatch this before we do our top 10 of the year list.
Yeah, it's still 3 hours long. So it's a little bit much, but going back through it, there's a lot of like little details I didn't remember. And a lot of the themes towards the end, like that last like half hours where I feel like a lot of us, I think we thought it just like kind of drags on and it's not necessary. Like when they flood the city and you're like, okay, like we already got the villain. Like, what are we doing here? And it just reinforces all of the things, all of the themes that like what Batman is trying to do. He says early on in the movie something to the effect of like, you have to choose to be good, or you have to choose to like become the person you're supposed to be. And that whole scene is he's basically just another like villain or vigilante or somebody else in the city, just like trying to get what's theirs, by being a rich kid. And he really becomes Batman in the final like half hour and decides like I can be a symbol for good and all that kind of thing. I really liked it the second time around. I gave it a 4.5. So I encourage you guys to rewatch it, even despite its runtime. But definitely really liked it. Nice. So yeah, those are my 3.
All right.
I just did a little counting. I go through stretches where I rewatch a lot of movies, and then I'll have like a month where I rewatch like 2. Yeah. Because I'm watching so many new things. But with us doing the 12 Days of Christmas stuff and just having some time off, I rewatched 20 movies this month.
Dang.
And so usually what I like to bring up are movies where my opinion has potentially changed on the rewatch. So really quick, I had 2 movies that went up from a 4.5 to a 5 for me on this rewatch. And those were Dazed and Confused and Carol.
Okay. I haven't seen Carol, but Dazed and Confused is great.
I'm surprised you already didn't have Dazed and Confused as a 5-star.
I think it was one of those ones that I had as a 5, and then I moved back down to a 4.5, and then watched it again and was like, no, it's a 5-star movie.
Nice.
Quick aside, on our drive this weekend for Christmas, we started listening to Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights, and he talks about getting that role and like how it set him up and like how he would like his mindset and stuff during that, and it's fantastic, the little story he's got in there. So if you can check it out,
a great character. But this time the thing that like really stood out to me was just the whole like fuck you energy that's there for like every group of kids in one way or another. Like with kind of the geeks, they're just trying to like go to a party and they got that bully that's like giving Mike shit. And then Pink's got his like the coach who's trying to get him to sign this pledge. And, you know, then the younger kids have the seniors who are like Ben Affleck just trying to like beat the shit out of them basically for nothing else. And they're just getting older and they think that's what they deserve. That's just like part of growing up. And the whole, just the theme in this movie of just like not giving in. It's something that like you kind of think eventually they're all going to give in at some point, but that's also why McConaughey's character is so effective.
Yeah.
Because he's just like the one older guy that like hasn't yet. And society looks at him weird for not giving in and still doing these things. But that's what all these kids are still trying to do. And it's what a lot of us are still kind of trying to do in some ways. So really, really loved it just again. And then Carol went up from a 4.5 to a 5. I'd only watched it once. It's a great Christmas movie with 2 A+ performances from Cate Blanchett and Rooney Mara. Just great score. The way it's filmed is fantastic by Todd Haynes. And the performances, like I said, are great. And it takes place over the holidays. It's fantastic and has a perfect ending. So those were 2 that bumped up from 4.5 to a 5. And then the other one I wanted to mention is a movie that I'd only seen once, and it was when I was in high school, and I remembered hating this movie. And so I rewatched it, and it's really, really good.
Gotta love those.
And that is Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut.
Oh, yeah.
Which IndieWire released a list of the top 100 movies of the 90s earlier this year, and they had Eyes Wide Shut listed as number 1. And the 90s are probably the decade I've seen like the most movies from, just when we grew up, and then like lots of great movies in the 90s. And I gave a really hard eye roll at that.
Yeah.
Dylan, I remember talking to you about that. I was like, "Are you kidding me? Eyes Wide Shut." And then
I had recently watched it at that point, and I think I have it as a 4, 4. And I was like, it's good. It's not best movie.
Well, I remembered hating it, so I was even more just like, "What are they talking about?"
Yeah.
And I mean, it's weird. It's Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, and Tom Cruise's ventures into this like masked orgy, basically. Is kind of the big scene that everybody remembers from it. It's just really, really good. I'm like right between a 4 and a 4.5 on it. It's also kind of a Christmas movie.
Orgies in the holidays.
Was leaving Netflix at the end of this month, so I thought it would be a good time to rewatch it, and it's great. I was surprised at how much I actually liked it because I gave it the rewatch. You try to go in with an open mind, but when you remember like actively hating it, it's hard to not just have one moment, just be like, "Yep, I was right the whole time." So it's really good. So those were my 3 best rewatches out of the 20 that I had.
Dang,
nice. Your love-hate relationship with Kubrick continues.
Yeah, there are 3 of his movies that I still do not like at all, and I think he's got at least 2 movies in my top 100.
So that's fair. It's a good accurate portrayal of his movies.
All right, now on to Dud of the Month, and for me it's very easy. It was Avatar: The Way of Water. Yes. I did not like it. I dislike it the more I get away from it. So yeah, that is by far Dud of the Month. Slam dunk. Slam dud.
If you want to hear his full rant,
yes,
we do have a spoiler review of that you can go check out.
And I lay out all my reasons, or at least some of them, at least half of them.
I'll say a lot of them.
I don't know. I got a lot. But yeah,
that episode did run long because of the shitting on it that we did. So Dylan.
It only made sense for such a long movie that the episode would also run long. So,
sure.
Yeah.
All
right. Adam. Over to you, Adam.
All right. I have two for Dud of the Month. They're not, I gave them both 3s, but compared to everything else I watched, they felt more like 2s, I guess. Mm-hmm. One of them we talked about and did a review. I suppose both of these, but The Menu was the first one that was from December. It was just, it's fine. I enjoyed it, but like when we watched it, but like we talked about in our episode, like it doesn't really do anything special or new. It just kind of is fun and entertaining to watch, but doesn't progress the genre or doesn't give you anything more to like really hold on to. Yeah, there's nothing profound, but it's entertaining, which is, again, it does its job as a movie for all intents and purposes then. So that was kind of a dud compared to the other things I've watched, like Paddington, Decision to Leave, Tar, Banshees of Inisherin, things like that. And then the other one was from November. It was Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. It was just let down. I just didn't feel like it was as good as the first one by a large margin. There's a lot of, it was longer than it should have been. There was a lot of stuff that just wasn't as cool. The action was bad. The set pieces, like the ship at the end was like, you can't tell where anything is or how big it's supposed to be. Scale was a problem. It just wasn't very good. And it really was a letdown, considering that was the one. I think we were all hoping that this phase of Marvel would be like this, the tent pole, and be like, look, they still know what they're doing. We're still going to give them a chance. Just bring us to the next, like, Avengers or something and help us. But it just isn't that. And I like the other ones, so I was thinking this would be so much better.
Phase 4 is a huge dud, basically.
Yeah, I mean, again, I like some of the movies that have come out in Phase 4. Yeah. Like I enjoyed Eternals and that sort of stuff, but it's not nearly as good as some of the other phases. So it's on the bottom. But those are my two. Those are my 2 duds for the month.
All right.
The Menu definitely fits in and could have been one of mine. I decided to just have one dud of the month, and it is a movie that came out on Netflix on Christmas Day, and I watched it on Christmas morning, and that is Matilda the Musical.
No, I haven't seen it yet. I've been waiting. It's bad. I
absolutely despised.
Oh no!
You might like it. I don't know. I know you love the musical, but there are things that work on stage that do not work in a movie.
That's fair.
15 minutes in, I was like, I fucking hate this. But I'm gonna finish this movie.
10 a.m. on Christmas Day, Nate Johnson just watching a movie he despises.
Just hate watching something. Oh no!
Absolutely.
For the viewers or listeners, like Nate and I went to this when it came, like the Broadway play came to Minneapolis like years ago. Absolutely loved it. I went and saw a community theater production of it this year with my girlfriend, and I love all the music. I love the lyrics. I love the sets, the characters that they do, how it's a reimagining of everything. Tim Minchin is the musician and lyricist that wrote most of this, or co-wrote most of it, who I'm a huge fan of. So that's really disappointing to hear. That's truly upsetting.
Mostly for me, almost all the songs sound exactly the same.
Yeah, it's
and
expected.
Really, though, the character work, it is just so emotionally shallow and surface level, like Cliff Notes character work. I rewatched the Danny DeVito 90s Matilda last night to get the taste out of my mouth. And it's fantastic. And there's nothing, basically what the musical does is it narrows down the story to just like Matilda fighting back against the Trunchbull.
Oh,
like there's no relationships whatsoever with any of her friends or her teachers. Everything is just, it feels like they skip every single moment that would develop a character and matter. And then you just get the cliff notes of like, here's the scene where this happened, and then here's the scene where this happened, and there's like an associated song with it, but
it carries no weight.
Not interesting, and there's no emotional resonancy to like any of this whatsoever. I give it a 1, and I put it as my worst movie of 2022 so far, which may have been slightly over the top, but given how much I love the original movie and the book, this was just an absolute letdown for me in every way imaginable.
Damn.
Well, you'll have to watch it, Adam, and on the next Roundup.
I hope you like it. I know you like the musical a lot. So
me too. I hope I like it, but
I hope you don't feel the way about it that I did.
I hope not either. But I had some free time without my girlfriend, and I was like, I'm going to watch it. She goes, "Can you please wait for me?" And I was like, "All right, we'll wait till we get back home from our Christmas travels to watch it." And now I'm just like, I'm going to be very apprehensive watching that with her and just kind of like looking over, like, do you still like this? Is it good?
I mean, it generally has good reviews. I'm very much in the minority on my opinion on this. So
yeah, but I mean, we've like we've said, we're closer to the source material of this one, having seen it, once or at least once. We're more attached to it, kind of understand it. If it's not going to meet that level, it's not going to be very good. So it's upsetting, but it's dud for a reason then.
Absolutely. Right. So on to our last category, which is movies you just want to talk about.
So yeah, I've got two. Both are good movies, but I just want to talk about the thing that holds them back. The first one is Dr. Sleep, which I rewatched for the first time in a little bit. I think I've seen it 3 times now. And God, it just, the last like 15, 20 minutes when it just veers into recreating the events of the first one, and it just feels like the last 15, 20 minutes feel different than the other 2 hours. Like, I feel like for me, the first 2 hours of that movie, it's tracking at like a 5. Like, I am so into it. I'm so into the mind stuff, the back and forth stuff with with Rose the Hat and Danny and Abra, and like, I'm into it. I'm loving it. And then they're like expanding on it, and I'm like, yes. And then once they're in the Overlook Hotel, they just couldn't help themselves. And I know that it's like following the book, so it kind of has to show what was in the book. I don't know. The last 15 minutes is always going to hold it back for me, which is sad because I rewatched it and I was having such a good time, and I was like, why don't I have this higher than a 4? What was I thinking? And then the last 15 minutes happened. I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
I think that's interesting because I've seen like the complete opposite opinions on that. Like for people who generally don't like the entire movie, I've read reviews where they're like, outside of the last 20 minutes, there's nothing here.
Oh God, I just feel like, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to spoil it completely just in case, but like once Danny has an axe in his hand, it just felt like, why? He didn't need to. He didn't. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. And her character,
the father.
I'll need to rewatch it. I haven't seen this since it was in
kind
theaters.
Of falls. I don't know. Yeah,
sorry, Dylan, what were you saying there? Her character, what?
The Abra character, just once that happens too, just kind of seems, I don't know.
That's the part that I think is a little bit
runs weird, and like it doesn't look, I don't know. Like she's so good the rest of the movie, and then once they get to the hotel, it seems like she doesn't. I don't know.
She gets very wooden. Sort of.
Yeah.
It's her acting ability. She kind of gets a little.
But I still really liked it. I still have it as a solid 4, and I did really enjoy it. And then the other one is from 1983, A Christmas Story, which I was not able to be on the episode where we did the 12 Days of Christmas for YouTube. This was supposed to be the last one, and I watched it the night before so I could review it with you guys, and then I totally got stuck at work very late and could not review it with you guys, and that was a bummer. But I rewatched it, and the only thing is, for the first time ever in my life rewatching this, because I've seen it many, many times, I started to see kind of the cracks and kind of the parts that maybe aren't, I don't know. Like, so it went down from a 5 to a 4.5 for me. Mostly, like, I don't know, some of the stuff with the kids is a little, like, over the top, and I hate that thing they do, like, 3 times where it's, like, they speed up the kids running. Like, it's like, they speed up.
I kind of get a kick out of that.
And that's like, and then it's like orchestra music. I don't know. That made me roll my eyes all 3 times this time. I just think it's so cringy. I wish it wasn't in there. But on the flip side, the best part now that I feel like I see now is my favorite part of the movie is the parents. The way that they are, the performances from I got a shout out now from Darren McGavin as the old man and Melinda Dillon as the mom. They are just so great. It just goes from great comedic timing to actually like really good like dramatic scenes, and like with the mom, like yeah, she's a little out there, but you can tell she's like a good, caring, loving mom. And even with the dad, like, oh, he swears up a storm and he's definitely strict and he definitely does this, but like at the end of the day, he just wants his son to have a good Christmas. And like I don't know, I just, the parents really, they still just knock it out of the park for me. So it went from a 5 to a 4.5. It dropped a little bit on my all-time list, but still had a great time rewatching it, and I still love that movie. So
awesome.
Over to you, Adam.
All right, I've got 2 that I just wanted to talk about, and one we did an episode on that I just gushed because I couldn't not, and I saw something the other day that I'll mention. This is the Weird Al movie. As a fan, it was like my favorite thing. It was everything I wanted in something that like nobody really knows or cares about, but it's like always been around. Like, Weird Al came out of the blue. Yeah, like, Weird Al came out with a new album, and like White and Nerdy was like the biggest song for a long time, or like on Amish Paradise was crazy, but like he kind of isn't always in the moment, despite having like parroting pop culture forever. He's been doing this for like 40, 50 years, something ridiculous like that, and at the best level. So as a fan of him and his music, I loved it. And then as a movie, like Daniel Radcliffe had a fucking blast making this movie. Rainn Wilson had a blast. Like everything in this movie is hilarious. Jack Black's character, because he has a cameo, it's great.
He's really funny.
There's that whole scene at the pool party is just ridiculous.
I still think it's the same house they filmed the Boogie Nights pool party.
It might be
so similar.
It might be. Evan Rachel Wood's great as Madonna throughout. It's I think I gave it a 5. It was like, this is everything I wanted it to be. There's no flaws. Of course there's flaws, but there's no flaws. It's just everything that I wanted. So I wanted to gush about that again. And then the other one I watched that I just want to talk about is from 2011. This is Rango, starring Johnny Depp and Isla Fisher. And I've heard people say like, oh, Rango's really good, you should watch it. And then like nobody follows up, or those people don't act exactly like gush about it. And I watched it late at night, like a week or 2 ago, and absolutely loved it. I was like, this has been hiding under a rock. Like, how come the people who like this movie haven't been like screaming that like, this is a very good animated movie that you should definitely need to see. It's one of the only movies that's animation that's beaten a Disney Pixar movie for best animated feature in the last 20 years. It's phenomenal. It's Don Quixote meets Mad Max or like just your standard Western. Thompson.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I do need to rewatch this now because I remember not liking this that much, but you've definitely inspired me, Adam, to give this a rewatch when I have some time.
There's there's some cute little characters. There's some cute little nuance. The scene, the enlightenment scene, we'll call it, in the middle when he goes back to the highway is one of my favorites. All the emotional beats or all of the like philosophical part of the movie is so well done and absolutely it hits home. And it just clicked. So I really, really liked it. I was just like, somebody's got to yell about this movie and say like, go watch it. It's fantastic.
It's also just got a really funny poster.
Yeah, he's holding onto his fish.
Well, they're just both of them like their eyes are just like dead center.
Yeah, it's
like expressionless.
It's there's so many people in it too. Timothy Olyphant, Johnny Depp, Isla Fisher, Abigail Breslin, Ned Beatty, Alfred Molina, who gets another shout out here, Stephen Root, Bill Nighy, Harry Dean Stanton. It's a packed cast. It's very well done.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right.
So on to me.
Yep.
I'm taking a little bit of a twist on this. And I rewatched 3 movies. 3 of the movies that I rewatched this month were Home Alone, Goodfellas, and My Cousin Vinny. So I just want to talk about Joe Pesci for a little while.
Yes.
All of these movies came out in like a 3-year stretch. I think, or like a 2-year stretch even. I think
Home Alone and Home Alone came out at the same time, same year.
At the same year, and then My Cousin Vinny was 92. So it was 2 of them in 1990, and then My Cousin Vinny was 92. And what a run. I mean, his character in Goodfellas is horrible and terrifying and kind of funny at the same time if you allow yourself to laugh.
Yeah.
I mean, funny, though. Don't call it. Yeah, absolutely not.
Don't call him
just
funny.
an iconic performance. And then he's so good in Home Alone and perfect for like he plays it straight.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the goofy bad guy. He's like actually kind of scary in that movie, but he's also funny in it too. Like he does the cartoon sort of violent stuff in a good way. And then My Cousin Vinny is just, it's a different role than anything you've seen Joe Pesci do before or since, really. I mean, it kind of combines, it's got a little bit of Goodfellas and a little bit of Home Alone in it as far as like the skills that it takes for him to do, but that movie is just fantastic. It's one of my favorite courtroom movies ever. And the pairing between Joe Pesci and Marissa Tomei is an all-timer. They're like a top 5 movie couple for me, easily. Yeah. And Joe Pesci is just fantastic. And I didn't even realize until we were kind of, putting our lists together for these different categories. I was like, wait, I watched 3 Joe Pesci movies this month.
And Raging Bull last month, right?
Raging Bull was in like September. Probably because that was for the sports.
It was that long ago. Oh man, time's just been flying by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was a while, but yeah, he's just fantastic. One of the best to ever do it, and just wanted to shout that out with 3 great movies that came out in a 2-year stretch. He was just on top of the freaking world.
Yeah,
nice.
We rewatched over Christmas Home Alone because it was on TV. With my girlfriend's family, and her uncle was like, I forgot Joe Pesci was in this movie. And I was like, how? He's the cop at the beginning. He was like, oh, no way.
Yeah, that actually reminded me of this happened after we recorded the Home Alone episode. So I was at a friend's Christmas party. This is a friend from college that I used to work with. And him and his wife were the only people there that I knew.
Okay.
And basically everybody else there has kids. My friend's like getting close to 40, I think. So like everyone, it was like kids between the ages of like 2 and 7. Just like all over the place. So the upstairs TV had Elf on, the downstairs TV had Home Alone on, like all this kind of stuff. And a bunch of us were just like playing games with some of the 4-year-olds downstairs, like with their parents and stuff, and kind of having a good time. And then a bunch of people left to bring their kids home. And then there were just like 4 or 5 of us left in the basement, and we kind of looked up, and the part of Home Alone that was coming on was like he was just walking into the church for that scene toward the end of the movie, and it was just 5 people, and I knew none of them, and then like 2 of them knew each other, and then 2 of them knew each other, so they're like basically strangers, and we all just sat down and watched the last like 30-ish minutes of Home Alone together.
Nice.
And it was just super fun. And I sort of commented on it as we were like halfway through the climactic part. I was just like, who would have thought that a bunch of like 30-somethings who don't really know each other would just be sitting in a basement watching the end of Home Alone.
The end of Home
a week before Christmas.
Nice.
So that memory will always be associated with Home Alone now for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's such a good movie. And it's like we talked about it when we did our 12 Days of Christmas. So like it's
for sure.
All the Christmas movies have that kind of pull, right? And Home Alone does it better than most, right? So that's a great way to wrap it up. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So well, that wraps it up for the month of December. Be looking for the January recommendations episode coming soon. And whose turn is it to put a wrap on the show?
It is my turn.
All right, take it away, Nate.
Everything that guy just said is bullshit.